Lee Fang of The Intercept, and forgive me if I mispronounce that, Lee. I've been told different things from different people. Some people say it's pronounced Lee Fung. Some people say it's Fang. I don't know what the fuck it is, so I'm just going to call you Lee. I have a feeling if I met you, we'd be on a first-name basis anyway. So Lee of The Intercept is continuing to do fantastic work. Listen to what he uncovered now. Big Pharma funds independent advocacy groups attacking drug price reduction bill. Wow. Advertisements from seemingly independent advocacy groups are swamping Beltway newspapers with dire warnings that recent proposals to lower drug prices will lead to dangerous consequences. In the last week alone, the ads have disappeared in the Washington Post, the ads have appeared. I like how I flipped it to mean its opposite. The ads have appeared in the Washington Post, Washington Times, Roll Call, The Hill, and Politico. The groups placing the ads have no obvious connections to pharmaceutical companies. For instance, the American Conservative Union, or ACU, one of the organizations taking out an ad, describes itself as devoted to promoting liberty, personal responsibility, traditional values, and strong national defense. But unbeknownst to readers, the organizations have undisclosed financial ties to the pharmaceutical research and manufacturers of America, the umbrella lobbying group that represents the biggest names in the drug industry, including Merck, Pfizer, Bristol-Myers Squibb, Purdue Pharma, and Eli Lilly. The ads have appeared as legislators are taking up proposals designed to lower drug prices, potentially cutting into the profits of the big drug makers. A bill proposed by Senator Al Franken would reverse a 2003 law that prohibits Medicare from using its collective bargaining power to negotiate for lower prescription drug prices. The ban on negotiation was originally authored by legislators working closely with pharma lobbyists, and the sponsor of the ban later became a pharma lobbyist. Wow. Okay, so Americans for Tax Reform, who ran one of the ads, received $746,000 from Big Pharma, and the American Conservative Union received $100,000 from them. So this is how politics actually functions. Obviously, it works like this with politicians, where politicians get campaign contributions from the corporations, and then they do the bidding of the corporations. But you even see it in media in this sense, where you have these allegedly independent groups that are just pushing a philosophical position that they hold near and dear, and they'll run an ad or something, but then you dig a little deeper and you find out, no, it's that this so-called independent group is funded by Big Pharma, so they're just carrying water for Big Pharma. In fact, people really don't get how deep this rot goes because this is almost all of right-wing talk radio now. So Glenn Beck, for example, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, these are all people who, they really don't have many traditional advertisers on their shows. Over time, especially with Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck, but specifically Rush Limbaugh, what happened is with the Sandra Fluke incident years and years ago now, where she basically called this poor college woman a whore because she took the pill or something, advertiser said, that's it. We're done with right-wing talk radio. I mean, it's been controversial for a long time, and we don't like what they have to say. And also, this is probably the most important point, too. They don't have the viewership that they claim to have. Like, Rush Limbaugh still cites a number from, like, the 1990s at his peak. He says, like, 10 to 20 million or even 30 million sometimes, they say, listeners to the show. I don't even know if that's per week or whatever the fuck. But that's simply not true. I mean, he's off many of his flagship stations that he was on at the time. So he used to be on the #1 stations in all these different places. Now, I know in New York, he's off WABC, which is like the #1 talk station. And even #1 in talk radio doesn't mean much. It's like being the tallest kid in kindergarten. It's fucking talk radio. It's just not that popular. So they don't have the viewership. They don't have the advertisers. So how the fuck do they stay on the air? What are you talking about? Well, the answer is basically welfare. They take corporate welfare from private groups. So they'll have different right-wing think tanks, whether it be the Heritage Foundation, whether it be, what are the ones, I forget the name of the ones, Freedom Works, some of the ones run by the Koch brothers, where they just put some of their billions of dollars into these groups. And what they do is they fund propaganda that serves their ends, serves their purposes. So, Glenn Beck with his The Blaze TV network, which gets horrible ratings, and Rush Limbaugh with his shitty radio show, who literally at sometimes has dead air in the breaks or public service announcements because he doesn't get any traditional advertisers. They're propped up by these right-wing think tanks. It's all a house of cards, man. To be fair, there are some who are popular, like Bill O'Reilly really does have, or did have, the number one show on cable news, which is sad. But to be clear, all the people who listen to him, they're like over the age of 70. So he's got like virtually every old white man in the country loves Bill O'Reilly. But he actually is genuinely popular and gets the eyeballs, yada yada. Whereas Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, not at all. So, but it's a trick. They're propped up. They don't make it in the free marketplace. You put them on YouTube and see how well they do. Nothing. Even the young conservatives will be like, fuck this old asshole ranting. They're just not interested. They just don't have the appeal that they arguably maybe once had. Well, it's the same thing with nobody is actually in favor of a bill that would bias the system in favor of Big Pharma and let them price gouge you and make you pay more for the drugs you need. Nobody's actually in favor of that. So what do you do if you're Big Pharma? Propaganda. Okay, let's pay these supposedly independent advocacy groups to frame the issue in a way where it's misleading, where you get people to be against their own interest. And there's been countless examples. Various states have tried to introduce, like California, I think, did in the last election, a bill that would lower the cost of prescription drugs by allowing negotiation. And it was killed. And it was killed, I think, because there was a massive amount of Big Pharma money that went into the advertising campaign that tricked people into voting against their best interest. It's the oldest trick in the book. And now you see it again. Whenever these bills pop up, whether it be at a national level, whether it be at a state level, there's always a massive propaganda campaign where people try to make you think you're voting against your own interest. They'll call it like government control of the drug supply, and are they going to ration? We're just asking questions. When again, the real idea behind it is just allow the government to negotiate better prices so you pay less for your drugs. But you frame the issue in a misleading way, and they push it out there. People think they're independent groups, but no, they're funded by Big Pharma. So you can buy different groups' positions on legislation, even when the bill is a slam dunk, no-brainer, not even close. And moving forward, this is going to be the only way that Big Pharma wins battles. It's the same thing, by the way, with initiatives to legalize recreational marijuana. The only way you're going to have that lose is if you have a giant push from pharma and maybe even alcohol companies and tobacco companies behind the scenes to do misleading ads to make people think that the bill or the referendum isn't what it's about. So this is unfortunately the way politics works in the United States of America, and this is why the answer is through and through to get money out of the system. Especially with the politicians, it manifests in the worst way, where you have politicians raise money in campaign contributions to their campaigns, for their parties, to super PACs, and then they end up doing the bidding of the people who gave them the money, which is, guess what? Not you. You give $5 to a politician, they're going to listen to you? Or are they going to listen to the Koch brothers asshole who just cut them a check for $100,000 for their super PAC? Gee, I wonder. So it's just a system of open and legalized bribery. You see it in the media, you see it with independent groups, and you see it with the politicians. And The Intercept is doing a great job, again, exposing this massive scam that's being run on all of us.